They say small business is the backbone of America. So what's the best way to support a small business? It is to learn more about them and share with your family and friends. We interview founders from across the world who have started and scaled their business through the ups and downs, long hours, and the rewards that come from sacrificing their time to build their business. Welcome to First to Arrive, Last to Leave, the journey of an entrepreneur.
All right, start this puppy out. All right, welcome to another episode of First to Arrive, Last to Leave. It's our first 2023 edition.
Yes, love this.
All right, we have a very awesome guest. Sasha is someone I've been able to meet through a women's group that is run from Leslie, who was a previous guest here. But Sasha Crabtrey is here. She's the president and founder of Remote COO. Sasha, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and I think I've got this right. You're out of like the College Station area, but you came out of the Houston cohort, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah,
So,
I just recently moved.
okay, that's what it was. You recently moved. Okay, so tell us a little bit about Remote COO. I know you've been around for several years now, and tell us a little bit about how you got started and what you do.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, Remote COO partners with entrepreneurs and nonprofit organizations to really help them run their business. We are their business partner. We're managing those tactical, like day-to-day operations so that they can stay focused on providing expertise to their clients. So we end up being a part-time member of their team, have professional level experience in all areas of running some service-based businesses. And so we kind of help you wear all of the hats. I know how hard business owners are working. I know how overwhelming it can feel. I know their struggles, their desire to succeed. And I think that we really have something to, offer them in this world so that they can offer their services to the world. And I want to help them achieve that through their journey. And that's always been just a passion of mine.
Amazing. And with doing this, do you come in as a partner and you're assessing the needs of the business and helping them execute?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. We join their team in a fractional, kind of part-time way, represent their company, but we're really looking at their operations and workflows and processes and pulling all of that together to really make it sync well, and so that there's not any gaps. And then we help them implement that on a regular kind of day-to-day basis.
So how, I know there, when it comes to just different pieces of, obviously there's a lot of pieces. Are there certain areas that you guys really focus on in helping to overtake certain areas? Or is it you've got a team across various areas and you can kind of plug and play at any point in a business?
Well, we kind of pride ourselves on being a Jill of all trades and just able to kind of come in and help on all those foundational pieces that it takes to run a business. We do have people or team members who, have experience in certain areas, and we do have someone who helps with the marketing piece. So we do kind of, place skills where they're needed with the client, depending on what their needs and challenges are. But we're always going to come in on that, just kind of that foundational level where the business owner feels really overwhelmed with all of the day-to-day, the administrative, the operational pieces, the sales process, the client onboarding process, a lot of those things that really take up their time.
So what's neat about this is, I've heard of like fractional CFOs. And to hear about a fractional COO is, the reason that's unique, the fractional idea is unique as a whole, because a lot of businesses, right, we're worried about cash flow. We're worried about, can we afford to hire this person full time? But I feel like that this type of work gives perspective because you can actually lend yourself to multiple different businesses and you're almost learning, like, let's just say manufacturing, service, food, and you're able to take all of that information and basically help each company. Do you find yourself cross-promoting or cross-working with your customer or your clientele?
Absolutely. We do business back and forth with several of our clients. So we're a client of theirs, they're a client of ours. We really help service-based companies, so those that don't necessarily have a product.
Yeah.
That's where we feel we're strongest at. So it's kind of the business professionals, consultants, business coaches, someone kind of, offering what their expertise is to the world, that it takes, them specifically to do it. And there's only so much limited time with that entrepreneur for them to be able to give their expertise. So how do we amplify that? How do we give them a way to scale that? And that's kind of, where we're focused.
So what puts you on this path? Because I find it like really, I'm curious, because you obviously have to have a lot of expertise to be able to give expertise. So what puts you on this path?
Well, I've always been involved in entrepreneurial activities like throughout childhood. My parents own their own company. I've worked for small businesses while growing up. Just always finding a niche in that organizing, planning, being creative. And after I graduated from Texas A&M with a business management degree, I worked as an administrator in a small offshore marine company. And then I transitioned to a program manager and then eventually director of operations at a nonprofit. So while I was there, I was talking with one of the board members, and he's like, I could really use your skill set on a fractional kind of part-time basis to help me run my business. I'm overwhelmed, but I work from home and I don't need you sitting in my entryway like a traditional role might be.
Yeah.
But I need your help and I want someone at your level, but I don't need you full time.
Yeah.
So how does that kind of work? And my business really just started from there, serving that, niche of clients. And I've been kind of a referral-based business ever since, and we're going on 17 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
She's legit.
Yeah, that's right.
I would love to know, like, when customers, I mean, I don't want you to throw anybody under the bus, but just kidding. When people come to you, what would you say the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make in that place of coming to you? So if I feel overwhelmed, and I come to you, what makes your job easier and what makes your job harder, and where do customers usually fall, type of deal?
Yeah. It makes our job harder when the entrepreneur feels like they already have systems in place and they just want someone to come do it.
Interesting.
Many times we think we have these things laid out, or we spend time laying them out prior to, bringing on help, and I want you to do it this way. We have a harder time going into those types of clients to help them understand or that there are gaps in that, or this doesn't make sense. When you have that third party perspective, it's a fresh look at things where you've been deep in the weeds for many years typically. And so we have to approach those a lot more carefully, because we're going to pick up on those gaps pretty instantaneously, because we can see it with a fresh set of eyes. And that's the harder part. Easier is when clients come to us and they are overwhelmed because they have all of this business. They're trying to kind of keep things afloat. They're not participating in home fully that they want to. They are not, they've missed a big sale or they let a client down, and they just know that they need help and they want someone to walk alongside them, and they understand the value of having someone at our level help them with all of the things. Those are my favorite clients, when they're just like, I just need help and I trust you.
You totally just said the opposite of what I thought you'd say. I thought for sure the overwhelmed, like, I've done this too long, I need your help person would be your nightmare. And then the person who had processes in place, who at least could say, all right, we've got to start, would be like that's so crazy. Okay.
Well, and I know were we talking about that we didn't like the word pivot at one point?
Right. Yeah.
But I think what's interesting about your line of work and what you're offering is that it's, like you said, about having a fresh perspective. And I know that a lot of the times you don't know what you don't know, and to have that expertise, 17 years, that's a lot of time, and it's a lot of expertise. Where do you feel like is always the starting point with a customer? When you first engage, what do you take on first?
We really try to understand the client first. How do they work? What do they feel like is the best use of their time? what things do they love to do? What's their priorities? So we really try to start learning about the client first and foremost. And we want to make a big, impact out of the gate. So we usually take a look at their calendar, understand those pieces, how they operate with it. Are they using time blocking? Just learning about their pain points, where they see themselves, what they want to do, what are some of their goals. So the biggest part to kind of building that trust, especially in a virtual, team environment, is to really get to know that person. And you have to do that with, using the video. It can't just be phone calls. It can't be emails. We have a very laid out way of, getting to know our clients so that we can build a trusting, long-term relationship with them. And we have to do that relatively quickly. I mean, we're getting into the nitty gritty. It's like the housekeeper coming to your house and you go running around picking up things really quick, but you've hired them to clean and they're going to see all the dirt and grime in every corner. That's kind of where we are. And we have to be able to provide a safe environment for that business owner to be vulnerable with us so that we can help them.
So how
Great analogy.
I know. It's, I've
heard of
we all do it. We all do it. We do.
This is a funny story. If you're on video, you can see I have a really messed up finger. I'm totally digressing. The messed up finger happened because I was in a rush. The cleaners were coming. This is a true story. And I was cleaning out a stemless wine glass. I didn't want them to see the dirty dishes. And the glass shattered in my hand and severed a tendon. So true story. Yes.
Over
vacation?
vacation?
This is stuck like this. No. This is many, many, many years ago, but my finger is stuck like this forever. So anyway,
so
I've heard of people doing that.
So it's a constant reminder.
There's consequences is what you're saying.
Yeah, so guilty. Very guilty. Yeah. Go ahead. You're going to ask them.
No, so I'm curious, entering, because, we talk a lot about Goldman Sachs, and so entering that program, were you looking at it as a way to build your business or a way, obviously yes, but also a way to sort of connect with businesses that could ultimately use your services?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was to connect with, I thought, wow, here's some business owners. I could be helping them do these things. Certainly what I thought going into it. Here's my vulnerability part. I went to Goldman Sachs because I wanted to find my goals. I wanted to plan for growth, and I didn't know what that looked like even after 10 years in business. Wow. I've always been a very short-term project planner, a very realistic view of today, a one foot in front of the other, do the next best thing. And I didn't have these long-term aspirational goals, and I couldn't come up with any. And I felt bad about that. I thought it was just me. If you're in business, you're supposed to want to grow tenfold and have this much revenue and do this much thing. And I was just kind of doing my thing, and I loved it. And I just kept doing it. And I didn't have things, laid out. And I thought that Goldman Sachs would give that to me if I could have someone kind of walk me through how I'm supposed to have that. And honestly, I just didn't feel big enough at first to even be there. But I did find my tribe. I found that I could learn from others who were a little bit further along than I was. There was lots of ideas and feedback and collaboration, and others kind of challenging you to think a little bit further out, to think a little bit bigger. And I think one of my kind of, one of the biggest takeaways that I had was understanding that it's okay to not have these ginormous huge goals of building a 50 or 300 person team and and having this big long list of clients and running some kind of corporation. It doesn't have to be that way, and I don't need to feel bad about that. I like what I do. I love my team. I love my clients, and that's what brings me the most joy. That's what brings me passion, is talking to small business owners. And I learned to be okay with wanting to have that same thing I was offering my team, which was being able to kind of, balance that work and, life and be the things that I wanted to be. Now balance is a little bit of a word for me. I don't mean 50-50 there. Balance for me is a sum of one, right? You're going to have different things in different seasons of your life.
Yeah.
But I wanted to have that within my life as well.
And I think that's one of the things too I love about this podcast when we talk about business as a whole, like what success equals to you. It doesn't mean that you want to be, like you said, a 300-person team. It's like, yay, we've got 3 people on staff and we were able to hit this number, and that is solid for us, and that we've achieved that goal. You don't have to run. I think we live in a society currently, because I know I struggle. We talk about social media. It's like, it's always, what's your side hustle and how much money are you making and all that stuff. It doesn't have to be that way. It can be like success could equal time with your family. It could equal a balanced schedule, or just hiring someone who gives you perspective. I mean, that equals balance too. I mean, at least from my gut, talking to you, I mean, like, that's making my perspective change on it.
Yeah. How did so you talked about goals, and you've got this balance goal, but you talked about you were shorter term thinking before entering the program. How did you, and you wanted to like really assess and learn how to set those right goals on a longer term. How did that change for you going in versus coming out?
Well, I learned the process kind of. I learned a tried and true, this has been tested type of, process to really analyze a growth opportunity and determine if it's right for my business at that time. And how do you kind of, assess the operational pieces and the resources that you need, and how do you hire the right people, and just getting already having the real world experience, and then being able to see how this kind of lined out in the textbook and theory wise. And when you're able to kind of mesh those two together, then you have this different look and perspective that says, 10-year goals, they're still kind of far-fetched to me. Yes. But I do know what I want to accomplish next year. And I do know that will kind of lead to the 2 and 3 year that I'm looking at. But they don't have to be set in stone. And I've always kind of talked to my clients about measuring what matters. So your goals need to matter. It doesn't have to always be the financial base. They talk about having SMART goals and how do you know that you reach them. And you know what? Some of them are just subjective. Some of them are a feeling. Some of them might be, I want to finish the day by 3:00 and I want to be able to take Fridays off with my kids. Some of my, clients have that goal. That's what they want to do. They want to grow their business, but they want to grow it to where they can achieve those goals. And it's just kind of about how you feel and that you're working with the right clients. Well, you can define right, but it's also just this feeling that you have that you really like what you're doing. So putting things in place to get that, to understand that, to know that those types of goals are okay too.
I want to go to obstacles, because 17 years, I'm going to assume, and this is nothing against you, Sasha, but I'm going to assume that there's been a couple bumps in those 17 years. So you are like this shining star of, I can't imagine, like, what is it, 90%? And I might be being conservative, of businesses fail after 5 years, right? Mm-hmm. What has been a couple obstacles that you had to overcome as you've built this for 17 years that, a lot of people may be thinking I'm in the crux of this, or, something, but it's just par for the course, and sticking with it, or just making a minor shift could make the world a difference. Anything you can think of in this long term of business owning?
Yeah, well, there are several, right? I think one of them early on is probably just learning how to sell yourself, how to talk about your business. It just takes repetition. It takes going to that monthly networking thing, time out, time in and time again, and just doing that and saying it over and over until you kind of perfect that. And then as you grow, learning how to sell your service and team so that clients aren't just drawn to you, but to the team and systems that you've built. So very early on, that's kind of, one of my biggest obstacles is walking into that daunting room of 50 people who I think all know each other. And they're talking, and it's like, okay, how do I go step into this little circle and say hi? and be able to carry on, a good, conversation that leads to, what do you do and how do you do this? Very genuine. And I like those conversations now, but I much prefer kind of the one-on-one, discussions and, getting to know someone. But it takes meeting them first. So you kind of have to get over that hump. But talking kind of a little bit about life, previously, my biggest challenge in business was letting my business run my life. That's running into the ground, the whole, I'm going to grind it out, sun up to sun down, burning the candle at both ends, whatever, you want to use there. I was all business all the time. And I let clients run over me sometimes. And I had some bad clients that, well, I need the money, so I've got to keep them. I've got to make them happy. And what it's kind of like boiling a frog. It was affecting my family and my marriage. When at the time my young daughter saw me upset one Valentine's because I got kind of called away from work, and this gets me a little choked up. She said, "Is it your mean client again?"
Oh.
And I knew, like, at that point, I was like, things have to change. I am doing this so that I can be, those things. I like, working. I liked, what I did. But I was taking heat and time and whatever from, my clients, and I shouldn't have been. And someone said, well, would you let that client talk to someone on your team like that? And I was like, absolutely not. And they said, well, why are you letting them talk to you that way? And I said, wow, man, that was one of like the biggest learning pieces to me, is to find that right fit and put boundaries around what that relationship looks like. Yes, we're trying to have a good, solid relationship with our clients, but there are boundaries around what time we are available, when you can text us, when you should call us, and when we're going to respond. And that comes solely from me, learning that. And I don't want any members of my team to experience that. So we make sure to train and kind of set them up and empower them to hold those boundaries with their clients so that they don't experience, those things.
Firing a client.
Yeah, I would love to learn, like, I mean, there's the learning not to hire. Have you gotten to a point where you've just been okay, like saying this relationship's not working, peace out?
Yeah. Well, I don't know that I'm ever okay with it.
Right.
I do not like conversations like that, but I do know when they need to happen. And I always prepare for them. I lay them out, so that I can guide the conversation, so that I'm not nervous about it. And usually it's been talked over and through a multitude of times. Here's why this may not be a good fit. Here's what I think you need to find to have a good fit for you. So I want to leave them with something. It's never a bad, breakup. I don't want to burn that, bridge, but it certainly has had to, happen on multiple occasions. And that all kind of boils down to kind of finding that right fit and understanding what that is. Now, you don't always catch them in the beginning, but when you are doing prospecting and you're talking to the client, you're finding out about their challenges and how they work, you can get a good feeling about if they're going to work for you, with you, if it's a good fit. And some, you're not going to know till you kind of get in there. And I think the client's going to know that too, because there's going to be frustrations that continue to come up on both sides. So I just think really preparing for that conversation and not blindsiding the client, right? Let's have some conversations in between. Let's make a few changes. Let's talk again in 30 days. So, I don't want to just come out and fire someone and try to do like some free strikes or something, so that there's been multiple conversations.
I like that process too, where it's like, all right, let's try to shift something versus this isn't working out, we're done.
Yeah. So when it comes to building a team, what are some of the lessons you've learned along the way? And like how many people are actually on your team?
Well, currently there are 11 of us, 11 wonderful women on the team, and my sidekick husband, who's, in the background. They're professionals, project managers, remote working queens. They're moms and wives and caretakers, and they're, most of them are pursuing some kind of, passion in their non-business hour times. And it could be, any of those additional roles. So they are part-time employees for me. My first few team members, though, were contractors. They were mom friends and a neighbor, and I basically approached you, and I'm like, how you doing? Kind of probing for, what do you do during the day? Do you want to come help me? And I was like, don't worry, we do stuff, and I'll kind of show you. Come on along. And that's kind of how it started. And I just relied heavily on my network to find other such women to bring on my team. And in recent years, we have used, more of kind of the job posting, sites. And I did have a lot of learning from 10KSB in this area as well. So our interview questions are really tailored to learn about the person through situations and discussions that showcase their fit with our culture and our core values, which are, really more important than the skill set piece.
So I'm so interested by this because I love a lot of times the opportunity to provide people with jobs, right? And that gets me in a little bit of trouble because like you said, like approaching people, like, what do you, okay, like you're a stay-at-home mom, like I could give you guys like some flexibility here. And I feel like that gets me burned a lot just because I probably hire the person that I shouldn't hire just because I really love to help people. Has there been a way like you said, you've hired other people, but I know people have been with you for a long time. So obviously you got some of that right. Any tips or tricks to like bringing in friends or bringing in people and like having that line between professional and like friendship too?
Yes. It's a little at a time, especially if you don't really kind of know their skill set and those first couple of ladies. So I was like, hey, come join me, or I need help. Do you think you can do some stuff? Just giving little projects at a time, just kind of figuring it out and not just full blown just releasing, here, go do this, thank you, call you later. Having guidelines around that is really helpful. I do have, my COO, who is also my bestie now, has been with me for 10 years. And I think our other, 6 years, 4 years, and then quite a few newer employees now. What we've really found that works for us, especially kind of in that friendship realm, which we weren't, at first, is really like almost physically putting on one hat and taking off the other. Mm-hmm. So we don't really discuss much personal things on our work calls and vice versa. When we have personal time together, we try not to, bring up work types of conversations, unless it's just, hey, how was your day? And we'd like to tease about, oh my gosh, my boss. But that's really important. And I try to do that with other members of our team as well. I mean, you want to get to know your team. You want to have a relationship with them. You want to understand like some of their struggles and things of that nature. But especially when it comes to kind of like the friendship piece and actually having a friendship outside of work, you have to still have the accountability piece, right? Mm-hmm. So when your work hat is on, your work hat is on. Here's what my expectations are, and giving feedback and vice versa. Like it comes back at you too. And then you've got to be able to kind of draw that line and then, go have a glass of wine that evening and say like, whew, had a rough day at work, but glad I'm here with you.
Yeah, I love it. You want to do rapid fire?
Sure.
All right. You ready for some rapid fire?
I am so ready.
Okay.
What's your favorite beverage?
Coffee. That and water. But if I'm going to head into the evening and weekends, I like a good red wine.
Any favorites?
As far as like red wine is concerned?
Yeah. Like what's your favorite?
Josh.
I don't know. I haven't drank wine in a bit, and actually I was thinking the other day, I was like, maybe I want to have some Pinot tonight. But Anyways, I'm really
Oh,
curious.
I'm red wine, and I like Josh. So check
Oh,
Josh.
yeah. Awesome. Okay, so the best advice you've ever been given?
It was from that first client I talked to you about who became my mentor and still mentors me today. He said, go get a client.
Ooh.
Oh,
Everything else will fall into place in due time. And it did. I was so wrapped up in having everything outlined and printed and legalized, and it became very overwhelming. And he's like, you need a paying client. Everything will kind of fall into place. You don't have to have your business name and your this and your that. And it did.
oh
That's great advice.
yeah, that's really great advice. Dinner with anyone, who would it be?
I would say my grandfather. He was a man of few words unless he was praying.
Hmm.
Then he had a lot of words. Lengthy.
And what does your morning routine look like?
You know, morning routines change with seasons of life for me. And currently, I'm a coffee first kind of gal. Love that warm, steaming first cup. But then glass of water, all my vitamins, and I get ready for the day. Hair, makeup, clothes. Yes, I know we're virtual, but we're on Zoom calls. And if your body's ready, your mind's going to be ready too. You're going to have a different mindset when you step into your office. So.
And then, let's see, what are you currently reading?
Emails. What are y'all reading? These days, it's emails for me. Business articles. I love business articles because they give me that short, boom, boom, boom. Here's a new way to think about something. And then just like LinkedIn thoughts from, people.
That is so fun.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that was a really good answer because that one threw me. I was like, really?
I haven't read that one in a while.
No, that's
Yeah.
And like, what's your top bucket list item?
You know what? I'm doing it. I always wanted some land. I've been an animal lover. My daughter started FFA. Love farm animals kind of began, and I dreamed of one day kind of having my coffee sitting on the swing on the front porch and looking out at the cows. And we made that happen in 2020, right at the start of the pandemic. It was crazy, but I can see out my office window and look at my herd.
I love that.
And other little four-legged creatures. There's plenty, and some two-legged ones running around here. So.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's my dream situation. Well, it is, but I always struggle with that. Do you feel trapped? This is my biggest. So I grew up on a farm, and this is why I feel this way. So I want to go back to my farm, right, and have not what we had. But then I'm like, because right now we've got a lot of dogs and cats, and even leaving them can be difficult. And that's my worry. It's like I also want to travel. So I want like a herd, but then I want to travel, and those two do not go hand in hand necessarily very well. So do you feel like sometimes it's hard for you to leave on vacations?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I do. It's hard to put the miniature, goat into the back seat. They doesn't really sit very well. So
daycare doesn't usually take them.
Yeah, and the hotels are like, what? But in smaller communities, especially like this, where ranching is kind of a way of life for some people, there's always a good, trustworthy, kid, family down the street, and you just got to kind of put the call out there and say, I have all of these things. They all need all of this attention, and I've written out in a big piece of paper, and then you pay well.
Yeah.
And you get someone who, loves those animals just like you do, is used to taking care of those types of animals. And, teenager in FFA or some 4-H who drives. That's helpful. Yeah. Then you don't have to burden the mom. But yeah, you can do it. There's ways.
All right. Now I got to convince my husband.
There
All right. Do we have one more?
We were like talking about like what your guilty pleasure is, and it's like, no, you should actually do things.
It's a guilty pleasure that you don't feel guilty doing.
Yeah, there we go.
For me, I like to sneak into the pantry and get some sour candy. I love sour gummy, candies with so yummy. But I don't like to tell anybody about it.
Well, thank you for sharing it with us.
Yes.
You're so good company.
Yeah, I have no willpower with those things.
Well, we were talking about Buc-ee's before we got on the call about how you get like the sour candy from Buc-ee's too.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say, like, Buc-ee's is just in general become my guilty pleasure. Like, I will stop and you get me those freaking nuts or the banana pudding. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Buc-ee's is
Yes,
like
my
everything.
husband loves those.
Oh my God. Like, I'll eat the whole container in a sitting and pay for it, but it's delicious and I have no regrets. So,
Yeah, and you don't even need to stop, right?
Oh, no.
It may not be a bathroom break. It may not mean that you need a drink, but you're like, there's the Buc-ee's. Oh, you're supposed to stop. Like, that is the culture that they've created. That's the craze that they have
So cool.
made. Like, excellent.
yeah,
Yeah.
I always joke. So we go there and like, I'm like, who stops here? Because I'm like, for anybody who doesn't know Buc-ee's, it's like a huge gas station. And like, they have these massive like deer feeders and feed. And then there's like massive like smokers. And I'm like, who drives here? And you're like, I need gas. And you know what? We do need a $2,000 smoker.
Yeah.
But we were in Maine and we were out and I knew there was deer around, but I'm like, dang it, where's a Buc-ee's when you need one? And I could totally buy a deer feed or a deer feed and like pull the deer out. So I didn't think it was useful, but there was a time where
Now
I
you
really
do.
would have found it
Yeah.
useful. So
Well, it's experiential.
yes.
Like
Yeah.
you see it on a sign, and you're like, oh, I definitely need beaver nuggets. I need this
Beaver
or I need
nuggets,
that. Yeah.
yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
All right, I need to go to Buc-ee's after this. All
I'm
right,
like,
so-
where is one close to Dallas?
Denton. There's one on the way to Denton.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, Sasha, if somebody wanted to connect with you, find out more about you, where is the best place for them to go?
RemoteCOO.com. We're on all the social channels. I'm most active on LinkedIn. So connect with me there. Give me a shout. Shoot me a message. It's Sasha Crabtrey at Remote COO.
Awesome. And we'll put that in our notes page too. So thank you so much for joining us today. It was
Thank
awesome.
you.
Oh, I've enjoyed it. Thank y'all so much.